Viewers, welcome back to Rise and Shine Your Life here on Tobago Channel 5. At this time in our program, we're chatting with Mr. Martin George, attorney at law. And this morning, viewers, it's about Carnival 2K15 and politics. So it's a mixture of both. Mr. George, good morning and welcome.
Good morning to you, and good morning, Tobago. Good morning, Eddie. Good morning, and it's always a pleasure to be here.
It's good to have you with us this morning. Now, I'm not even sure where to start with, what direction, what point to start on with you this morning, Mr. George, because we have a couple of things. We're talking politics, yes, involving the former Attorney General and Ram Logan and the David West issue. We've got the Carnival 2K15, and then there's the whole question here of whether or not Dr. Keith Rowley did anything wrong by whining on a 17-year-old girl during Carnival, or was he standing up? Was he being whined on, whining on, being whined on? Was he palant? I don't know. Is there an issue here?
Well, I mean, as I said, I think it's only in Trinidad and Tobago that a man taking a wine on a woman becomes a national story, you know, because it really is, you know, a storm in a teacup. It makes absolutely no sense to be debating that issue, because if you saw, there were other photographs of him with several other women, but I guess none as young and shapely as that particular young lady, so therefore you have a whole furor, you know, resulting. But it really makes absolutely no sense to even waste time discussing it. I see no issue there whatsoever. It's as much a non-issue as those who were discussing the Prime Minister's outfit when she went to the UNC party at Carnival time.
Very much
in the Oval. You know, I mean, you look at it, and I mean, as far as I'm concerned, you know, if when the Prime Minister stepped out of her house, she felt, well, look, yeah, I'm rocking this. My point is, you go, girl. You know, you take it away, Sister Kamala. You know, if you feel good on it, you do it. You know, I mean, I wouldn't hire her stylist. I mean, not even to dress my poodle. But I mean, if she feels happy with it, then by all means, you go ahead.
But it's all in the Carnival spirit, Mr. George. But,
I guess so. People dress up as different characters. So but maybe that was the idea.
The comments coming from some quarters, you know, disparaging comments, you know, about her attire.
I don't think they were necessary at all, quite frankly, because at the end of the day, style is something personal, and if she's comfortable and she feels happy, by all means, hey, as I say, you rock it.
Okay. Non-issues there. All right, so let's talk now. We're talking, let's start off this morning with Carnival 2K15. You had some concerns. There were some concerns as it relates. Are we talking Carnival, Trinidad National Carnival? Are we talking Tobago Carnival?
Well, the thing is, first of all, I think we need to debunk this whole idea of there being a Tobago Carnival. What we have is a shadow of what Carnival really is supposed to be. I heard the Secretary for Culture, you know, boasting that Carnival in Tobago was a success. And you wonder, where do the politicians get the gall to look at the nation and, you know, trot out such rubbish? Because you heard the people from NCBA complaining bitterly, saying, look, bands were late, there was a small turnout, they tried giving incentives to band leaders to come out early, people started 3 hours late, you know, you saw the small smatterings. So what we need to do is to really revisit this whole idea. Do we need Carnival in Tobago? Just now, I'm not finished. At the same time as Carnival in Trinidad. We need to cancel Carnival in Tobago at the time when Trinidad has Carnival.
So it's not question of postponing Tobago's Carnival.
That's right. Let Trinidad have Carnival. All Tobagonians who wish to go down, let us organize, give them free passage on the fast ferry. They could go down, play their mass, enjoy their parties, whatever. Because you have to facilitate people who want to take part in it. But let's promote Tobago throughout the entire Carnival period as the place to get away from it all. Get all the church groups, all the people who just want to relax and, you know, rest. And so you promote Tobago as the place of tranquility. They must not come over here and be hearing loud jamming music and congestion in the streets, that kind of thing. No, you promote Tobago as the place to get away. You would see, you would get thousands more visitors coming to Tobago if they know that they get complete tranquility here during the Carnival period. And then what you do, right, because I've thought about it, and I'm willing to speak with the band leaders because I know most of them personally. Dean Akin from Tribe, he's my good friend. We went to school together. Mike Antwine from Legacy. Right? You have Ian McKenzie from Wild. I know all these people. What I want to do, let us look at Republic Day, September.
24th.
Let us schedule Carnival in Tobago around the weekend closest to Republic Day every year. So in other words, people know that that's the time when Carnival in Tobago would be. So sometimes it will fall that it will have a long weekend and you'll have thousands of people coming for it. But if you do that, and that's your official Tobago Carnival, Republic weekend, Republic Day weekend, whatever closest weekend to Republic Day, then you will now have all the major bands from Trinidad. Okay, and I want you all to listen to the idea. You arrange with them that they bring up their masqueraders. In other words, they would tell their masqueraders, look, after you play mass in February, keep your costume. Keep your costume. We go in Tobago in September. Think of the thousands of persons who will come up here. In addition, you will now have a full-scale carnival in Tobago. Tribe will come up, Bliss will come up, Legacy will come up. You know, all of them will be here. Hearts, okay? I mean, the owner of Hearts, I mean, he's real cool. He will make that effort and come up. And when you have that, here's where you have for the Tobago band leaders and the Tobago mass creators. You have a section in each band whereby they must have a Tobago mass designer bringing out a section. Okay, so I want you all to understand the idea. Listen to the concept. You are bringing up the big bands because they will bring all their splendor and all their, they have the experience. We must understand that and respect. Eh? They have the experience and the knowledge and the ability. So they will bring their costumes that they used, right? And then for people who didn't play mass, people from Trinidad who didn't play mass, and Tobagonians who want to play mass, each of these big bands will have a Tobago section. So you will have a section called Tobago Tribe in the big band Tribe, Tobago Bliss in the big band Bliss, right? Tobago Legacy, Tobago Hearts. And in that section, you will have the new costumes for the Tobago Carnival, whereby any Tobagonians who want to play mass, they could buy a new costume and they play mass there. Any Trinidadians who may have missed it, or persons who may not have been able to afford to buy a costume in February, they could now buy one in September, get a new costume and come and play mass in Tobago. And then you have all the thousands of masqueraders who played in February and coming back again with their old costumes to play again in September. Man, you will have such a spectacle.
So you're talking jobs being created even for the Tobago band.
This is my point. So you see, you have to think creatively. And that's what we've been lacking in Tobago, unfortunately. Nobody thinks outside the box. Nobody's willing to step outside and say, hey, if you keep doing the same thing the same way and getting the same results, you really expect it to change? You must think differently. Because I heard the cries of the band leaders and the organizers, and they're singing a totally different song from the Secretary for Culture. She's standing up by herself and saying it was a success. Everybody else knows it was an abysmal failure. Let's call it as it is, and let's think of different ways to approach the situation.
All right, we're going to take a break, but when we come back here, Mr. George, there's the issue here of productivity being low leading up to Carnival. Schools, particularly school teachers and principals, have been complaining. No school that Carnival week, no school the week after Carnival. We'll talk about that when we come back from the break. Stay tuned. Join us just after this. Viewers, welcome back to Rise and Shine. Attorney at law Martin George is still on our program. We're chatting this morning about Carnival 2K15, politics, etc. Now, Mr. George, just before we took the break, the issue here of productivity just before Carnival, that Carnival week, and productivity after Carnival, let's say for schools and business owners whose employees go out partying and fetting till 3, 4 o'clock in the morning and cannot get up to come to work on time. Tell us, I mean, how will this affect productivity? Well,
the thing is, I mean, I think we need to change our mindset. And, you know, interestingly enough, Marshall said it at one of his performances recently. He said it, I think it may have been Saturday at Dwight York's party. If not, it would have been at one before that. But he said, listen, he said, how many of you all are going to work following the event, and some people said no, and he said no. He said, listen, we must party hard and work hard. And that's the idea we need to understand. So in other words, there's a sense of responsibility whereby you go out and party how much you want, but you make sure you are there, 8 o'clock the next morning, you are there for work. And, actually one of my employees reminded me of that this weekend. She said, Mr. George, one thing I always remember about you will play your mass Monday and Tuesday to the mass. But the first person in office Ash Wednesday morning is you, and you bright and ready to go. And that's how we have to approach it, because we can't, go to the excess where, you abandon your responsibilities. So we must balance it. I mean, of course, there would be circumstances where, you may have to ask for time off. Some persons may have, but the point is you don't abuse it and you don't overdo it, and you understand that your primary responsibility would be to your work, to your school, whatever. And I mean, that's the culture we need to, instill in our people.
You're proposing Republic Weekend, Republic Day,
yes,
Carnival and Tobago being centered.
Republic Day, yes.
Right. If not Republic Day, what other time could you look at? Because Tobago has become a very active hub, a very active island. We have become very social. There's always an event in Tobago.
But I'll tell you why that's the best time. If you look at it and you speak to the hoteliers and the persons in the tourism industry, they will tell you that is actually the lull period. Because remember, you have the July, August, where you have basically lots of locals, lots of trainees coming over with their families and stuff like that. So you have lots of activity. Then you have Sandbox, they have their events. You have Great Fete, you have the Wet Fete. So during that period, you have lots of things going on, July, August. So early September, school starts back, everybody's back to school, you can't interfere with that. So around that time of Republic Day is the best time when you can have it, because remember, once you hit November, you're back into the tourist season again. So therefore, that time period is a great time, a great opportunity for us to focus on getting that swell again of visitors and persons coming to Tobago. We have to understand, let me tell you something. Our politicians have been fooling us with talk about, they were fighting for internal self-government and talking rubbish. I'm sorry to say it's rubbish. Because you know what? Your fight must be first and foremost for your independence in terms of your financial independence, your economic independence, your independence of thought. And then listen, after that, you don't even have to ask for self-government. Because in other words, you will be so strong and powerful and independent that it is a natural thing that you would be in charge of your affairs. So you see them talking about, they're having these consultations again. I tell you one thing today, Tobago, and I will say it. Mr. London will never get internal self-government for you. Before these elections that are coming up, he will never get it. Do not be fooled. It's a waste of time. Let's focus on building Tobago, strengthening Tobago. Let's focus on strengthening our industries, our businesses. You have $3 billion coming every year in the Tobago budget. When you look at all the major projects and construction works, it's Trinidad firms. The THA is taking and giving the money back. So it's just cycling it right back to Trinidad. What foolishness. That's the way to build an island. That's the way to build your entrepreneurs, your business people, your young people. You need to invest in our people. If you are saying that you are getting these monies for big contracts and you're saying that, look, our young contractors don't have the experience, then what you do, you ensure that you say, okay, look, all right, you, Mr. Big Contractor from Trinidad, you are coming up. But you must partner 50-50 with a local contractor. Let him learn, let him develop, let him be able to grow so that next time, we ain't calling you from Trinidad. Our local contractor will be able to do it. That's how you build and grow. But we've not been doing that. What we've been doing is clamoring for more money and then just paying it right back to all the Trinidadian contractors and all the Trinidadian businessmen.
Mr. George, and this is why I always say that the concept in that is lost from the Dr. Eric Williams era. Because when he was Prime Minister, he stated clearly that the Tobago budget was to be spent primarily in Tobago, okay? So that the question of cheaper prices in Trinidad were not coming to the fore because everybody knew or everybody knows that the price in Tobago is a bit higher because of the transportation and certain logistics. The prices in Tobago are higher. So if you cannot get a contractor in Tobago, then you revert to Trinidad. But once you can produce one from Tobago, everybody knows the price would be a little higher, but is to promote the Tobago contractor, but that seemed to be lost along the way.
It's totally lost.
In
Totally
the politics.
Lost.
So
you
trying
ask yourself, who's doing the big contracts?
So trying to develop Tobago with Tobago contractors. We have no contractors can challenge a Trinidad contractor. So we are all lost. The $3 billion would be spent back in Trinidad, and Tobago would be going on and on.
Even the provision of goods and services, you look and you ask yourself, in other words, all right, they might be paying for it in Tobago, but who is the money eventually trickling back to? And that's the problem. That's the difficulty I have with what has been happening. You have situations where, they talk about, production and productivity. They talk about Cove Estate and stuff like that. Who are the Tobagonians who have businesses in Cove Estate that are really thriving and successful and building multi-million-dollar industries? We have to start thinking big in Tobago, We cannot continue to think that running a business is having 5 little bags of Beneball and a tray and you're walking around in the airport whole day trying to sell them. That's not business, I'm sorry. And that's what the THA has you doing. We need to think differently. We should be producing a Beneball factory, producing 5 million Beneballs and selling it all over the world, packaging it properly, beautifully, attractively. That would be such a treat. People would be so happy to have that. You have that in Switzerland, in Sweden, wherever. They will say, look, Tobago Beneballs, look at it. It will be an exotic thing. Look at Tobago chocolate, what Mr. Dove has managed to do to create that niche. And he's a private citizen. Trying on his own. You have all the resources of the THA and you cannot develop a single credible international product. They have failed us, I'm sorry.
Yeah, but I want to come back to the marketability of Carnival. And I want you to say something on how it is at present, whether it can be marketable in as we are going, we expect it to be marketable, or whether there had to be new initiatives in order to make it, bring that money in, encourage the band leaders to
what I just suggested, the earlier point I made is exactly what I'm thinking is the way you have to do. You have to come with new ideas because what we've been doing has not been working. And what you want, if you want to have a carnival, a big carnival celebration, then you need to get the input of the people who know about this. Let's not fool ourselves. So you need to get the persons who have made it a science. Michael Headley, my personal friend, for years, we were the people behind Poison. Remember when Poison used to rule the road? If you understand me, we would have board meetings and we'd sit down and work out everything. And this is what you need. You need that expertise, that input. So therefore, they can come. They can develop the Tobago mass creators. The Tobago band leaders will learn from them. They will learn the techniques. They will learn the business side of it. Because listen, let me tell you, this is a business. And this is big, big business. One costume in Hearts this year on average costs $6,000. When I got my costume and it's just a short pants, and you ask, you say, well, this is the most expensive short pants you ever own in your life. If you understand me, and that's it. But the point is, it's for the experience, and people keep paying, and people keep playing. And so therefore, if we understand that in Tobago, and we can tap into that market, then you can imagine what it opens up for us. If one person is paying $6,000 basically for a short pants, and for the ladies basically is bikini and beads, basically you're paying $6,000 for, and they are happy to do it again and
Some
again.
Expensive bikinis and beads.
That's a fantastic business model. It's a really wonderful business model, but we have to create a product that is attractive and appealing. And with that, you must get the input from the big bands. You get Tribe, you get Bliss, you get all of them to come over here. Let them take over Carnival, but with our input. So we are learning and we are profiting also.
I think certainly some ideas to be considered, but we've got less than 2 minutes to go here. But very quickly, I wanted to ask you here concerning Nico Dyer-Griffiths handing in her resignation with the COP. Your thoughts on what's been happening, even with other party members being expected to resign later on today, and the whole issue of what's been happening with David West, how he was appointed, the resignation of the firing of Mr. Ramlogan and Mr. Griffin.
Well, what has happened, I mean, I think it was inevitable with Nicole in terms of, because as a matter of principle, right, she has taken a principled stand and she said, listen, I can no longer be a part of this the way it is going. You remember, you had persons who did that similarly. Wendy Liuren, who was a deputy director in the COP, she left. Leroy Myers, he left also, right? Vernon de Lima. So, in other words, the COP has been falling apart all the time, and what you really have is the grinning, smiling face of Mr. Ramadar walking around behind the Prime Minister saying that that is a party. And everybody knows that in reality, there's no party left. But Mr. Ramadar is happy and he looks very healthy and satisfied and full. So he will continue to play his role and grin and pretend that it's a party. But it's a sham. But the pretense is necessary because you want to go into election saying that we have a partnership. It's the same way with the TOP, as I have said. You have them split. You have one side, a follower with no leaders, right? You have followers with no leader, and then on the other side, a leader with no followers. But that's the pretense.
Okay, and that's how you see it. Follower with no leaders and leader with no followers.
That's right. That's what they've become. Yeah.
Okay. All right, but thank you so much, Mr. Martin George, for being on our program this morning, for chatting with us on several issues. Viewers, we'll take a break. We go to our Rise and Shine Morning News. But when we come back, we will be chatting with Ms. Shiva Alexander and Mr. Ricky Permanent, the Executive Director of the Ministry of Planning and Sustainable Development. They're going to be chatting with us on an initiative coming out of the ministry. Stay tuned. Join us just after this.